Calling from I don't know, country code 46. Where would that be? Country code 46.
Is this me?
It is you. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Chris. I'm calling from Kattegat.
Chris from Kattegat?
Kattegat. It's the waterways between the Atlantic Ocean and the Baltic Sea.
Okay. I will.
I don't want to be more specific.
I understand. I should say I had not heard of that, but okay. I thank you for allowing.
Scandinavia.
Okay. All right. Great.
I have a question for you, Sam.
Sure.
When did World War II start?
For whom?
Right. If you ask most people, they would say 1939. Mm-hmm. In China, they would say 1937, probably. Though actually, Japan invaded Manchuria, I think, in 31. Italy invaded Ethiopia in 1935. So, World War II.
And if you ask most Americans, they would say December 7th, 1941.
Probably, maybe. But my point is, World War II wasn't one war. It was several conflicts that eventually coalesced into one giant global super conflict.
I get where this is going, as if we need some other sort of like a darker vision of the future, but go ahead.
Right. So what I'm saying is World War III has already started. Only this time there will be no one left to debate when it started.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't know if you can give us a guarantee on that, which I'm, glad about. But what?
But why do you say that? Basically, yeah. And when did it start?
I mean, but you look around. You have war in Asia, war in Africa, war in Europe. I think this is the big one.
Well, I mean, all right. I mean, okay. I mean, I suppose. I mean, we've had war in a lot of different locations that that were happening simultaneously on the planet on many occasions. Yeah. I mean, if let's put it this way, let's say to speculate. Let's say within the next 6 months, we start to see more negotiations in terms of Ukraine and Russia. Would you?
Yeah, that's not where it's going.
All right. Well, yeah. So elaborate. Oh, you're saying you're saying that there's no negotiations happening in Ukraine and Russia.
I'm not keeping up to date with that exactly. I've kind of actually drifted out of.
Well, I mean, come on, Chris. If you're going to predict World War III, that's one of the major conflicts, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you have all these conflicts, and they're all, it's like a perfect storm. They're all.
But is it though? I mean, because I mean, honestly, and I'm not being coy here, but has there ever been a time in where we haven't had multiple ongoing conflicts?
No, but not like this. I mean, yeah, all throughout history there have been conflicts, but they're all so interconnected now. I mean, if you look at like Sudan, it's like, the one side is backed by Russia, the other by the West. And so you have this, I mean, I don't even know exactly how the bloc's going to form. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't see a way out of this.
Well, I mean, I can tell you a way out of it, that within, the next 3 to 18 months.
You're sounding like Thomas Friedman.
I'll give you that's my FU. Well, the only reason why I say 18 months is because I find it hard to believe that Putin would make a deal in Ukraine before the election. That's the only thing that's the only reason why I have that type of window. But I think
Putin has already won. Like he's got everything that he's interested in Ukraine. You know, the Donbass permit. He's got that.
Yeah, he has that. I mean, he has that, but he also
and he can play the kind of the war of attrition for much longer than Ukraine. So he's already won.
He can, but not necessarily without not paying a price domestically. I don't know if you recall, there was almost there was a coup attempt there recently.
That mercenary, whatever, guy.
Yeah. But
yeah, I know, but he just seemed like, I mean, he was just, Russia's falling apart too. Like,
okay,
so,
well,
yeah,
Chris,
yeah,
I mean, I
don't know why that would make me less likely to worry.
Well,
I mean,
listen, Chris, I mean, I think that
right?
I get your point. But I think that I can also imagine a scenario where they get into a negotiated settlement in Ukraine and in Russia. Now, maybe conceivably we'll have some type of conflict with China. I don't know. But, there have been many precarious times in the past 75 years.
We hit a Chinese embassy with a NATO hit a Chinese embassy during Kosovo. Like things are.
I mean, we came close to.
No, I know. Yes, I know about the Cuban Missile Crisis. I know that we've come close to this before, but now it's not slowing down.
Well,
and I think this is. I mean, if you compare the Cuban Missile Crisis, I think one big difference is, like John F. Kennedy. At that point, he was like a young guy. He had a newborn son. Now, Joe Biden, he's old, about to
Chris,
die.
I think
his eldest son is dead, and his only living son is a fucking embarrassment.
Yeah, well, Chris, I
think he kind of has a death wish.
Listen. All right, I appreciate the call. I think like when you start to move into the territory of this is Joe Biden's suicide attempt. I think like it's. I mean, listen, you could be right. You could be right, but I have to say,
and it's not to downplay the horrors that are in the world right now.
No. I'm just saying that, like, as a matter of like calling into a call-in show, that's sort of a conversation ender. If we're on an inevitable path to global annihilation because of World War III. And you're gonna predict this based upon Joe Biden really just being incredibly agitated with his sort of fail son. I think that I don't know what to say. I think.
Did he drop off?
Yeah, I think like.
Well, look, I mean, it's. I understand feeling a little bit doom and gloom in this period, and if you're up in Scandinavia, it's cold as hell up there. So I get it, but
yeah, there's a
not
book
a lot of sun.
I can't remember who it's by that makes this argument that we're already in it, and like I think we're definitely in a situation where things are
turning. Is it that one?
No, it's not. I don't read that stuff, but it's like it goes. I think it's like there's a lot of escalation and militarism on the rise in the world, and that's a big problem. But I also don't know, like, if we're going to have this kind of definition, well, maybe this is World War IV, actually, and Vietnam and Korea and all that stuff was World War III. Because, like, I think that stuff was as acute and troublesome as what we're seeing now.
I also think that the interdependence that we have with our biggest, supposed rival, that being China, the economic interdependence, there's a lot of interests on both sides that I think, financial interests that drive a lot of these things. It's one thing to produce all this weaponry to sell to Israel, or really to the U.S. government to give to Israel, to bomb Palestinians. That's all still within the interests of a lot of big money. I'm not as quite convinced that a U.S.-China conflict would do that, and I certainly don't think that Russia has the means in which to sustain something like that. Dog kissing expert. There won't be any Chinese-U.S. wars as long as Taiwan has a state company that is one of only 2 or 3 that holds the expertise to make 2nm chips. China can't risk Taiwan becoming a battleground and losing access to important military technology. I mean, I
think that's partially true. I think like people say like China could take over Taiwan, but if they tried that, I don't think the TSMC, I think is the silicon fabrication company. I've listened to, I think it was on American Prestige, that the ability for them to just hope that they'd be able to like continue the production process seamlessly is a little bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I think there's enough of like an international economic elite that
and we should be encouraged. Like that's the type of globalism I encourage. I like that there's commercial ties between Taiwan and mainland China, and I think we should be encouraging that, regardless if they want to both call themselves China or not. Just keep working with each other as opposed to against each other.
But that is that is exactly the opposition to U.S. policy on that front. We do everything we can, I feel like, to sever that.
I think we do more to make sure that we're not as dependent on that relationship. But
we're trying to build our own silicon fabrication stuff here. That's I'm not sure how great that's going now. I've heard some bad things, but
that would be about the dependence, but like, I mean, the freaking Pelosi going over there, I guess that was considered more rogue.
Oh,
that's about the, the fomenting that kind of nationalism to sever that.
The sanctions are super stupid. Like with one of the main video or graphics cards that's also used in AI production, but made by NVIDIA, is outlawed in China. It's the top end one, so you can't even get it in there. And it's just like they make the chips for that in that
right
island
there, right over there. Yeah.
What are we doing?